Welcome in to the CHGO Bears Podcast on a beautiful Saturday afternoon. It is a spirited show today as we had a great training camp fight. Shockingly, it was not between me and Greg Braggs, who was not in attendance, but it was between Chase Claypool and Eddie Jackson. Myself, Nick, Greg, all here for you today. Busy show, so we're just going to hop right into it here. Nick, let me start with you. Good to see you. Great to be with you today, by the way. And let's go best and worst right off the top of the show here, Nicholas Moreano. You lead us off onto what you saw, what stood out from this Saturday Bears battle of a practice.
Yeah, let's start with the best here, you guys. I really was impressed by the throw that PJ Walker had to Nasimba Webster for a touchdown. Not the most likely guys that you would see, but it was probably around 40 yards. And what was cool about it afterwards, Nasimba catches the touchdown, the offense running to celebrate him. And so is Justin Fields, who was on the sidelines, obviously watching that second team unit, comes over, celebrates with PJ Walker. So it was a really nice throw and catch. And then my worst from today, you guys, just Tyler Scott and the drops. I had 3 of them in my notes, and each one of the balls that were thrown were all catchable. And the one that's most disappointing was a deep ball where Tyler Scott's running down the left sideline. Tyreek Stevenson's in pretty good coverage, but the throw was there from PJ Walker, and Tyler Scott had a step on Stevenson and could have gone up to elevate and make a really good catch. It hits him, drops, and he also had a drop in team drills. So those drops are really starting to pile up for Tyler Scott, who I think has been having, now an up and down camp with when he makes plays, it looks great, but those drops are just piling up for me. So that's my best and worst from the 9th training camp practice of today.
Yeah, and like we have been talking about Tyler Scott a lot. We've been tweeting about Tyler Scott a lot, and there's a lot to like about Tyler Scott. He's super fast. His cuts are sharp. His attitude is mature. It's his there's a lot of impressive things. What's been unimpressive is that his drops, he's in great position. Like Velus last year when he dropped the ball, he was kind of awkward and it just didn't look good. Tyler is right there. And it's like, how did you drop that? Like that's been my reaction. My best from today was Eddie Jackson and Chase Claypool. We're going to talk about it a bunch here, the fight. Claypool catches a ball. He's headed towards the sidelines. Eddie's there. He can hit him. He cannot hit him. Eddie decides to crack him pretty damn hard. Shoulder into the chest, bang, as they go out of bounds. And Claypool took exception to it. And here we have our first, I would call it, real skirmish of training camp. And I guess, there's Poles is involved in it. They're trying to talk to Eddie afterwards. Apparently Tyreek Stevenson's mouth guard got stepped on. I didn't see that, but Nick, you did. But the concept to me that like Eddie has a moment there where he can or he can't hit him. He could easily let him go out of bounds, but you know what? Listen, we are up in the ante here. I'm a talker. You're a talker. I'm not missing this opportunity. I don't know if it's personal or not. Who knows? Who cares? I mean, I do speculate a little bit that like, if you really, really liked that dude, if that was your guy, you probably don't crack him there. But I'm that's a guess. So, but I just like the physicality, period. The worst for me today is Tremaine Edmonds not practicing again. I don't now. Alan Williams was asked about, are you worried about guys missing? And he didn't. He said, yes, he wants them out there, but he doesn't seem like he's worried about anything long-term. I did hear whispers yesterday that it might be a while for Edmonds. I haven't been able to confirm that. I don't really know, but him missing a second straight day means that yesterday was more than a vet day. But if we want to go positive on that side, I was worried about Tevin Jenkins, and Tevin was back out there today. So that was great to see. By the way, hit the like button and hit that subscribe button if you're first joining us on the CHGO Bears podcast, so you know when we are on. Is clearly in training camp time. We do things slightly randomly. Most days we're doing 3 o'clock, but today on a Saturday we're popping in at 2:45. We were hoping to get in at 2. But guys were trickling in late today. Mercedes Lewis, by the way, going into his 18th year. 5 years with Green Bay before coming to the Bears. I don't know, Braggs, if you were able to hear it. Nick, you were obviously there. This is one of the most impressive guys on one press conference that I've ever seen in a Bears locker room. This is a legit veteran leader with a lot of juice in the game that I think can do a lot for this locker room. So I'll throw that also in best.
Yeah, and Mark, I was actually transcribing the interview, so I didn't even get a chance to hear Mercedes talk. But just hearing what Robert Tonyan had to say about him, like he literally learned everything, which is obviously, a great reflection of who Marcedes Lewis is and how he approached himself and what he can do to take a young player who wasn't even playing the tight end position at the time and take him under his wing. So it speaks a lot to who Marcedes Lewis is.
Well, and Braggs, let's go on Meatball Island for a minute here. I mean, you sometimes live there. A lot of times you live on Brilliant Island, but let's just go to Meatball Island for a second here.
I love Meatball Island.
I know you do. So EQ, Robert Tonyan, Luke Getsy, Mercedes Lewis. Am I forgetting one more Packer that we have in the room? I mean, it's becoming Packer Town here at Lake Forest at Hallis.
Did you say Lucas Patrick?
Lucas Patrick. That's who I missed. That's 5. So, do we have too many Green Bay guys? Are you getting? Are we too? Mustard and relish here?
No. Keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer, right? You bring these guys in, and Luke Getsy obviously has familiarity with them, so that's what plays into a lot of this. But I have no issue with it as long as we don't hear any reports of guys walking around with Packers shirts on.
We did hear a report of that.
I did hear a report, so we got to cut that part of it out. But the rest of it, as long as you're on our side of the lines, I'm ready to go to war for you.
Okay, so let's go back to the fight. I just wanted to make sure that
that's definitely where I'd like to go with it because I've been going to camp a long time. I've seen a lot of fights. So to hear the reports, obviously disappointed that I couldn't be there to kind of witness it and see the mannerisms from the players themselves. But just from my his history of going to camp and watching Kyle Long, and it was like a rite of passage every year. Kyle Long and Akeem Hicks would get in a fight. Like, what day of practice would they finally have enough of each other, of hitting? They're just constantly hitting each other day after day. Eventually, they just got sick of each other's faces and they just start throwing blows. But it was always kind of a funny thing. Like, oh, here we go. These guys are going to get into it. They get separated. And then the cliche, oh, we're just ready to hit somebody else, would be said in the post-game presser. Now, or the post-practice presser. Now, I've also seen it go ugly. I've seen, and I posted the clip, 10 years ago, Martellus Bennett and Kyle Fuller, where Martellus, Kyle Fuller throws Martellus down. Martellus gets up and throws Kyle down. Martellus is then suspended for that, which I thought was a terrible decision by Mark Trestman. He's out like 6 days, I believe. And that team crumbled. That was the first sign that they were not going to come together as a team. Brandon Marshall just was running amok all season long. They had to cut practice short that day, not because of the fight of Martellus, but because Brandon Marshall completely lost his mind on the practice field. So there's 2 different types of fights, right? And what was this one from your guys' vantage point? Because for me, when we talked about lack of energy from the offense the other day, I don't have that big of an issue if Chase Claypool is trying to bring the energy. And if you say Eddie Jackson may have stepped out of line a bit where he didn't have to go full throttle, taking him out of bounds, then I don't have an issue with Chase Claypool getting chesty about it. But if Chase Claypool is putting himself like me against the world, against his own team in a corner, then I am concerned about the toxicity of the moment. So I want to hear your guys' perspective of what you saw.
Nick, go ahead.
Well, here's the context of it. It was in team drills, and Chase Claypool runs a drag route over the middle of the field. He's heading towards the defensive sideline, and he catches the ball from field inbounds and gets hit technically inbounds. But Eddie Jackson's coming down in a good angle, and it's got some speed and some power to it. So once Chase Claypool gets hit from Jackson, he is now in the defensive sideline. And he did not like that. He took the football, threw it at Jackson, and then the two come together. Eventually, Chase Claypool actually rips off Eddie Jackson's helmet, has it in his hand. The offense is obviously going to the aid of Claypool. The defense is already there because it happened on the sideline. So they're jawing. They have to be separated. But later, even after that rep, so Eddie Jackson's still in with the 11-11 on defense. Claypool's out. Eddie Jackson's still talking to him while he's out, not even in on the play. And later, after the team drills kind of dissipate, they go into the next portion of practice. Justin Fields has to kind of get into a huddle with some of the defensive players. Eddie Jackson's in there. You see Jalen Johnson. So the quarterback's talking. But even as they're kind of going and entering the next segment of practice, you see Eddie Jackson, Chase Claypool still going after it. That's when Ryan Poles enters himself into the situation and tries to get in between these guys. They never came physically again to each other, but they're still jawing. So, look, could Eddie Jackson have pulled off on his hit? Probably. Should Chase Claypool have ripped off his helmet when they're in the scrum? Obviously not, but yeah, that's kind of the context of what happened, who retaliated, why they retaliated, and what went down at practice today.
So I asked basically everyone today about the fight, and we've got a couple of clips from you. We can start from the top, and Alan Williams was the first person to speak today. So let's get a coaching standpoint. Bears defensive coordinator Alan Williams, and he did not like the pushing about there. He likes the intensity, but he didn't like the extracurricular. Braggs, give me a thumbs up when you have that ready. I think we do. So so here's your Bears defensive coordinator asked about the fight.
Of a lively practice. I mean, I love, I'm not concerned about, the offense. I have my hands full for sure of just being the coordinator, but I love our energy. I love the way we run to the ball. But I would say this, that we are to make sure that it's competitive, not combative. And so that means that we are competing. We want to be elite competitors, elite guys in how we compete, but we don't want it to be combative. So I don't like the pushing and shoving after the whistle. When they let us do that in the ball game, hey, we'll be all for it in practice. So part of it is playing hard, playing fast, playing with energy. I love the chippiness. That says that we're establishing an identity. But the after the whistle stuff, I'm not for that part.
So that tees up exactly what you were just saying, Nick. Look, go ahead. Don't let him go out of bounds. Hit him. Let's go. Let's have some chippiness. And maybe even a good hard shoulder back, and maybe even a little screaming on the way back to the huddle. Let's go, baby. Something along those lines. Bring it on. I'm still coming for you. But he didn't like the pulling of the helmet off and everything else that was going on.
You want to play, Williams on if it was a late hit? Just I asked him this question, and we'll hear it right here. But yeah, I was curious what his opinion on the hit itself.
I think that Eddie sit on Chase was late.
I'll wait to see the video, the film, and see. I don't think I'll wait and look at the tape and see. We have good ball players. We have good decision makers. So I would say with Eddie's a phenomenal decision maker. So I would say before I look at the film, I hope not.
So phenomenal decision maker. And in my mind, he made a phenomenal decision to crack Chase Claypool. I don't know, again, if it's personal with him and Chase Claypool, or if he was taking on for some people perhaps in that locker room who maybe respect Claypool's talent, but also think that Claypool deserves a good little crack every now and then that he perhaps hasn't been getting. I think I do wonder if there's just a drop more to this. I mean, let's go back in time. Justin Fields talking about, Chase has got a whole lot better attitude now than he originally did. Right. Claypool. And this is not to run down Chase Claypool in any way, shape, or form. I'm just trying to put the pieces together here so Bears fans don't freak out. Look, because
it started all the way last year, when he first came to the team and Chase was yelling at guys on the sidelines about, being more competitive. And Justin came into the post-game presser and was like, we're going to handle ourselves a different way on our sidelines, trying to take control of the situation.
Right. And so has he gotten under some dude's skin, and this was his opportunity to put himself in there? That adds up to me. I don't know where you come out on this, Nick.
Because then the other aspect, Nick, and I don't know if you have it near you or within reach of your notes, but what did Darnell Mooney say the other day about how he's starting to gain more respect for Chase Claypool? In the last presser he had like 2 days ago, he spoke on this where he's starting to kind of understand where Chase Claypool comes from. He touched on this a little right before training camp he came in. And then I know he had another quote here just a few days ago. So, I think everyone's kind of adjusting to Chase Claypool being much different than the rest of the guys on the offense that are more mild demeanored. And this is what came up on Wednesday about how the offense didn't have enough energy. Well, Chase is the opposite of these guys. So I think there's a little bit of, oil and vinegar mixing here.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly what Mooney said, Greg, but I'm trying to think back too. On Wednesday's practice, Chase Claypool cracked TJ Edwards, put him on his ass. And Eddie Jackson was in on that play. He's John flexing at saying, go to sleep. And so we've heard like the vocalness of Chase Claypool intensify over these last practices, making plays. His voice is being heard. Look, Eddie Jackson is a guy that likes to talk. He knows that there's a lot of players on the defense that like to talk, and it was a play inbounds. And for me, like for Eddie Jackson, I think he's just trying to get his in-season reps in here too. Like it's a legal play. It's got some force to it, and of course, Chase Claypool didn't like it. So I think if you add all these things up together, this is the 9th training camp practice. They didn't have pads on the day before. They're back with the pads. You want to set a tone. Eddie Jackson's going to do that, and he did it today. He's not going to back down. He kept on John with him. He's one of the leaders on this defense. So I also think for him, it's an opportunity for him to get like almost a live rep that he would do in game. Would you rather see Eddie Jackson lay off on a hit near the sidelines when it's an opposing team? No. So he's kind of just doing it to his own player, but he let off, I think a little bit too, because he didn't completely knock him off, his ass there. So for Eddie Jackson, he's getting an in-game rep. And obviously it led to, the fight that happened right after that.
I'm seeing a lot of people in the chat saying, I want to see the hit, which at that point in practice, we're not allowed to film. So you're not going to see this hit. The Bears are not going to put this hit out on there. That's not going to happen. But he's going to the sidelines. He's caught the ball. He's headed to the sidelines. He could have let him go very easily. And Eddie can be physical, but I wouldn't call him a quote-unquote physical safety who's always throwing his body around. Mm-hmm. That's not his mentality. So I think what you just underlined, Nick, from the other day where he was standing over TJ Edwards, that makes a whole lot of sense to me. That at least, I don't know how big of a piece of the pie that is, but it definitely feels at least a part of the pie.
Right, because every action has a reaction, right? And that's what we're seeing from Nick's point about him saying go to sleep, from the Wednesday practice where the defense completely obliterated the offense, and Brisker and Gordon and all these guys, Tyreek Stevenson, were chirping the entire practice, just talking straight shit to every single offensive player, letting them know. And then it comes back yesterday's practice where it may have been a lower tempo practice than maybe even what we had today. But at the same time, Chase Claypool had back-to-back touchdowns, and both times was celebrating like more so than he had in other practices this season. And it felt like the offense was kind of doing a checkmate. It wasn't maybe to the same veracity the defense was giving it to him on, but there was a little bit of gamesmanship going on there. So now you go to today, these two sides are battling, and that's a good sign. And I think it's getting to a point where we've already reached that they're ready to play somebody else. And that's great.
So let's get one player's perspective on it. And so we pulled Robert Tonyan, who I've been super impressed by both on the field and off the field to this point. And I think this guy's going to be he had a lot to do with Mercedes Lewis coming here, which just rewinding back to that real fast before we hear what Tonyan says. Robert Tonyan's been on the phone trying to bring Mercedes Lewis here for a while now. And then Mercedes Lewis talked about the fact that he's been on the phone with Luke Getsy 4 times a week for months. And their selling point to Mercedes Lewis, which I asked him about, because the Bears won 3 games last year. This is a guy who's used to playing for winners. He's in his 18th year. He's not just going – he'd like to win right on his way out. And so they have been hammering away at the Bears culture to him and how hungry guys are here to win. And we're seeing some of that hunger on the field today. So here's Robert Tonyan on the fight today. Again, I think it's worth mentioning the rest that I just said here because he's been selling the Bears chemistry to Mercedes Lewis on coming here. First day he's here, fight on the field. Mercedes Lewis wasn't practicing today. But so what did Tonyan think of the battle?
What's your viewpoint of Chase and Eddie today?
Yeah, I mean, football is football. I mean, I think there's been fights in every single camp since I've been in the NFL. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's just football, competitive.
Can that bring a team further together in your mind?
I mean, yeah. I mean, and a lot of the time it stays on the field, and that's the maturity of people. It stays on the field, stays in the lines, and when it comes to the locker room, it's kind of gone. Like no one really talks about it.
So it sounds like the guy in the locker room wasn't talking about. Nick, you're shaking your head. What's your reaction to that?
Well, that's just interesting to me. Like, okay, you're out on this practice field, you're practicing, things get really, really heated, and then it just magically goes away once you enter this holy locker room. Like, I don't know if I'd be able to do that personally. Like, I know so Chase Claypool and Eddie Jackson's lockers are on opposite ends of the locker room. I'd be looking over at you. I think stuff would boil up if that was me, if it kept on happening. And so that's what I kind of also want to bring up here. Like, this is great. I love the intensity and the competition on the field, but that cannot escalate and transfer over into that locker room where things are just bad. I think that can be bad for both sides here, but it's just fascinating that Robert Tonyan, who's played a lot of football, been in some different locker rooms, it just magically disappears when you go into the locker room. I don't know.
Yeah, and it would be a stunner, by the way, if that locker room went the other way, because we've been talking about that since last year, that the Bears just have a very positive atmosphere.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just a good feeling in that locker room, and I don't think that anything changes from today. However, I do, to your point there, Nick, I do think it is a little utopian in thinking that you could just walk in and then, that's the magic locker room dust, that this didn't happen, we're all good. I guarantee you Eddie Jackson is at some point today when he's going home is talking about this thing. And Claypool as well. But I mean, I don't know, some people have different motors. Like that happened and no big deal, that I'm moving on, I'm a football player, ain't no thing. I mean, Braggs, I don't know, you're the bricklayer here who gets in fights on the job back in the day. I mean, how long did you hold things when that would happen?
I'm happy to tell one of my earlier fight stories. I won't tell you my most recent ones, but the earlier ones, I don't want to scare my new coworkers, but some of the early days when I was in my young 20s, one time I was like, oh, did you hear, who was the wide receiver that changed his name a long time ago, like 10 years ago?
Ocho Cinco.
No. And I was like, hey, Jimmy, did you hear Chad Johnson changed his name to Ocho Cinco? He's like, I don't give a shit about whose name changed. Get to work. And I was like, I'm just talking, dude. And as I said that, he headbutted me right in the face. And then we proceeded to beat the crap out of each other. I won the fight. Thank you very much. And he got a black eye. He went home. And the next day, he came to work. I was like, get out of here. You're going home for the day. And my boss pulled back. I was like, where's Jimmy? I'm like, Jimmy had to go home. He had enough for today. And the next day he comes to work with his hat down like the kid from Sandlot. And I was like, what's up, Jimmy? We done with this? And we went to the bar later that day. He's like, I got a lot of respect for you. I love you, Braggs. And that's where it ended because, we're all, a bunch of savages out on a job site. And that sometimes is how it gets handled. And we understand in other, lines of work and even in construction, you shouldn't be doing that. I'm not advocating for it, but it does happen. And it used to be kind of more commonplace back in the day that people handled things like that. And nowadays, obviously, you're not going to do that. But football players come from that old school mentality where you're going to have times that, fisticuffs get thrown. It kind of is what it is. But most guys can handle it and move on from it and shake on it afterwards. And when it can't be that way, that's when it can rip apart a job site or a locker room.
Well, that's why. That's what Tonyan said, that every training camp I've had, which, by the way, I don't know, it feels like the right time to tell you about Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary because perhaps the Bears should be using some Sunnyside tonight, which is your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping, place for all kinds of visitors, including teammates on the Chicago Bears are welcome to explore, discover, and purchase a wide array of high-quality products. One-stop shop for all your cannabis needs. They've got the Mindy's, the Cresco, the High Supply, the Floricol, the Wonder Wellness Company wants to make the world of cannabis simple to understand and easy to experience for everyone. The brand's low-dose formulations offered in gummies and mints allow people to control their high. They've got all this stuff for you, so many options. Through August, all of August, go to sunnyside.shop. Sunnyside.shop. Use the code CHGO25, CHGO25. Do that at checkout, and you get 25% off. 25% off your total order. That is one per customer, not stackable with other promotions. And that's not only for new customers. If you've been there before and you haven't used a promotion or this promotion, you can use this one. get back at it. Pick up everything you need to elevate your summer. You do have to be 21 or over or an Illinois Med card holder. Sunnyside is our guy, sunnyside.shop. Use that code CHGO25.
Novadamus said nobody fights after a visit to Sunnyside. So there you
That's
go.
exactly
Just
right.
give the boys some Sunnyside.
Absolutely. Go check out Sunnyside, you guys. It'll calm things down when it's heated situations. But you also got to check out Circle K. We are so excited to partner with Circle K here at CHGO. You can check out your local Circle K for the best coffee, beer, snack selection, and of course, premium gas. And look out for those freebies. They always got them there, and the giveaways down the road. And look, if you're on the road, find your favorite snack when you're, traveling. Best deals you ever gotten will come from visiting a Circle K. So again, just want to say thank you to Circle K for sponsoring CHGO. Visit your nearest Circle K to pick up all your favorite finds.
All righty, ready. We're going to move on to there's a lot of action today with conversation. But the day did start with Ryan Poles meeting the media very briefly about 9:30 this morning. And Poles was talking about bringing in Yannick Ngakoue. And it was just funny. He's like, he sits down. He's like, I just want to say thank you to all the Bears fans for all your passion, which, by the way, we'd like to say thank you to all the Bears fans for all their passion here at CHGO. Those of you who love us, those of you who hate us, those of you who are in the middle. I know that everybody loves the entire show, and then there's a certain segment of our population that perhaps wants to kill me. But I love you, and so does Ryan Poles, because apparently everywhere he went, from his kids' baseball games to a beach when he's on vacation, literally everybody's saying to him, "Go get a pass rusher, Poles. What are you doing, buddy?" And he went out and he got a pass rusher. So that was a good start to the day, Nick.
Yeah, look, just tells you, look, the Bears GM, he's listening. He's hearing what you guys have to say. And even if he's on a beach in Maui, he's getting told, like, you need a pass rusher. I had a buddy of mine reply to one of my tweet about this quote saying, we may have been the guys on third base yelling over at Poles to, go get the pass rusher, which was pretty funny. So, hey, and he did it. Look, Ryan, it took some time, but Ryan Poles obviously identified Yannick Ngakoue as the guy to help this Bears defense. And Mark, I thought you had a great question too, if you want to kind of say to our listeners what that was about. Like, was this a need because of practice, or do you want to enhance the defense?
Yeah, so I just was wondering, like, look, because the defense we've noticed is definitely on the upswing here. And I was wondering, is Poles watching this defense and thinking, wow, okay, we're actually good enough that if we add in a guy who can get to the quarterback, Yannick Ngakoue, somebody of that ilk, it turns out that it's Yannick, then we actually have something here. So I'm now willing to pay the freight to bring him in. Was his decision based on the fact that he's liked what he's seen, or is it just always he's been looking for a pass rusher? And his answer was a little bit of both. So, I which tells me that, yeah, we were bringing him in, but I also do like what's going on here. So maybe he's that much more excited about the addition. I don't know how you heard that, Nick.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way after just kind of listening to him, and we only had 4 questions got asked to Ryan Poles because he had to then go to practice and help break up a fight later in that practice. But yeah, that's what he kind of said here. I would say both things are true. We've been in this for a long time. Again, there's a level of patience that you got to have to be a sound decision maker, which echoes what he's been saying. Like, he's not going to go out there and just make a move spontaneously, thinking about all the different ramifications of a move, what he needs to do, what's the right price, what's this going to affect the future, how is this going to affect the future. So Ryan Poles, very calculated guy, and came to agreement with Yannick Ngakoue, and now he's technically not here in Chicago. He had to go back home to go, get some things squared away, but we'll be here soon and hopefully on the practice field soon.
Yeah, not if you're going out to Family Fest tomorrow, weather permitting, don't expect to see Ngakoue out there because he is handling some stuff. I don't know, Braggs, do you have any reaction to what Poles said today with that stuff?
Not too much. I had a negotiation deal with my daughter that I had to go get her a Gabby dollhouse. She broke her arm late last night. We had to go to the hospital. So she's all casted up and fine. She fell off her scooter. So this morning we were going to Targets in the area until we found her Gabby dollhouse. I don't have a good poker face. She does. I just gave into every demand she possibly, asked for. She got the ice cream, the dollhouse, and everything else. So, honestly, I didn't get a chance to hear Ryan Poles this morning, but obviously encouraged for Yanni Ngakwe to get on the practice field Tuesday.
Yeah, and best to Addie, who is obviously tougher than at least her dad for sure. I'm not going to throw mom under the bus here, but
no, she's tough as nails. There's no doubt. Didn't cry one time.
Didn't cry. That's amazing.
Did not
That's
cry.
impressive.
I promise you, did not cry.
Oh, wow,
That's awesome.
Yeah, well, go Addie. And by the way, tears are okay, everybody. If you are feeling sad or hurt, therapist Carm is here to tell you that you letting that out is good for you, which I'm sure you were telling Addie as well because you're an elite parent.
I thought you were about to go into a better help read.
No,
well, Dr. Carm too. Like you were giving me some stretches in the media workroom to work on my tight ass hamstrings that are affecting my ankle. So Mark's doing it all right now, you guys.
Yeah, Nick's got some ankle issues, and I'm trying to keep this softball team moving forward. Big game tomorrow night, last game for the playoffs. I heard the ankles weren't good, and I've got my own flexibility issues. So we're all. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I don't mean to cut you off. I was just gonna say we got almost 1,000 people in the chat, so please hit that like button while you're hanging out with us. We appreciate you. I didn't mean to cut you off there, but always appreciate everybody tuning in. And for all you new listeners or viewers, like this is what we do. We're going to come to you live after every practice during training camp. On non-training camp months, we're live 5 days a week at 12 p.m. Central. We do pre- and post-game shows for every game. Next Saturday for the first preseason game, we'll be doing a post-game show, so make sure you tune in for that. Just a lot of stuff to offer here at CHGO Sports, so stick with us, subscribe, and have some fun with us this season because it's going to be a good one.
So I want to move over to and please hit that subscribe button. We appreciate everybody being here today on a Saturday. A lot going on at training camp today. I want to go back to Robert Tonyan and play one more soundbite that he had to say. So the juice of today was coming up. And so I followed up with Tonyan about juice was a conversation earlier this week. And Darnell Mooney was saying that Justin Fields has to come into that huddle and bring that every day. And so I wanted to, get an opinion from Tonyan on, the excitement of the offense, how much of that is on the quarterback. So this is what Robert had to say as far as the juice and the leadership on the offensive side of the ball.
A young guy who's hungry and he's quiet and he works. Obviously he doesn't get the publicity that these other young guys or young up and coming guys are getting. But he just works. And that's what I respect most about Justin is he keeps quiet and he just works. No outside noise, nothing that doesn't affect him.
He might not get the publicity, but I'm sure he's talked about a lot.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's a quarterback. They all get talked about.
That quiet part, it was teed up earlier in the week by Darnell that he wants that Justin's going to bring the juice all the time.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
I talked about that with him a little bit today, actually. He is growing up more into that boisterous leader role, which he wants. And, he's reaching, he's trying to reach those goals of being the leader of this team more vocally. But he doesn't always have to be the juice guy. That's not a quarterback's job. You have to have guys in the locker room who hold themselves accountable as well, who bring the juice every day, whether it's receivers, running backs, linemen, tight ends. You can't put every single thing on this kid's shoulders. But wherever he's comfortable with in doing and, playing his game and sticking to, what he knows and what he does best, I think that it's our job to kind of form around him as well.
Was that basically your message of, hey, you don't have to do all this, I got your back, sort of?
Yeah, how is he, 24, 25 years old, and you're going to put the city of Chicago on his back? He's got enough on his hands. He doesn't have to, make sure everyone on his team is bringing the juice or the energy. As grown men on this team, we have to hold ourselves accountable as well and help him out.
So a little bit of a pushback and a support at the same time, right, from Tonyan on everybody hey, Justin, you've got to lift up this group of kind of, even-keeled dudes, come in this huddle and get everybody ready. And Tonyan's going to him, and I thought it was, just interesting that somehow that he was talking to him about that today, saying that, hey, just so you know, you don't have to do, you don't have to do this all yourself. It's on us to, be there to support you. I thought that was super interesting. And it shows that whole room, that the offensive unit is trying to have the quarterbacks back.
Yeah, I really like the answer from Robert Tonyan there. Like he said, he doesn't have to have the whole weight of Chicago on his back. And, at times it feels like that for Justin Fields. Everything is on him. How this season will go, the offense taking the next step. Yes, he's going to be a huge part of it. And for Justin, he is more of a reserved type of guy, but he does have that energy, can get fired up at times. Of course, we've seen that in the field, but there are 10 other guys out there with him on an offensive snap. And if it's Chase Claypool that needs to bring the energy, or a guy like Tonyan, Tevin Jenkins, like there should be other guys too that help out with that. Just Justin Fields' presence should give the guys like this energy. But I agree with Tonyan. I know we've heard some differing answers, like from Mooney, who said like he needs to bring the energy. You just don't want to be forced. If it's forced, then I think it's fake. It doesn't have the same effect as it would if he was like naturally trying to do it. But if it naturally comes out of some other guys, I think that's okay for it to kind of be split up amongst your offensive team.
That part I completely agree with. It always has to be authentic. If you're a quiet guy or you're a loud guy, you can be either way, but be authentic, because when you're not, that's when you're not going to have the trust of your teammates. And every locker room is different. And there's 56 players in a locker room. Once you get to the regular season, there's even more right now at training camp. So everybody's got different personalities. Everybody's motivated differently. Just like we were talking about on the job site. Like some people are motivated by, their boss getting in their ass for a minute. And then others, they completely melt down and shut down when a boss gets hard on them. So it is, and these are young players too. They're not kids. But at the same time, they're going to be motivated differently. I mean, Ray Lewis, look at the way he motivated the Ravens locker room.
Mm-hmm.
We've had examples here in Chicago of offensive linemen that ran the locker room a certain way. It just depends. Now, Mitch Trubisky, when he came out, you could hear him in the huddle up, like having this like war cry speech every time he came out the tunnel. But was it like, did all the players actually respond to it in the same way? So Fields is trying to lead by example, showing up at midnight. Maybe he's not going to be the rally cry guy that some guys need.
To me, this is a big thread of the needle, right? Because you do want your quarterback to be the leader. He's the quarterback. It's part of the role. He's the one that's going in there and telling you what the play is. He's getting guys organized. There's a certain level of just responsibility that comes along with it. And look, if he can get a little bit of help alongside of it, because it's not completely his personality, well, then dudes have to come in and fill the void here, rather than just sit there like, well, he's not doing it, so we don't have it, versus like, well, this is what he does. How can we support him? Which is what I liked about what Tonyan had to say. And now I'm like in my head going back in time, like to like, my childhood, and seeing videos of like Walter Payton in the huddle, and he's in the huddle. He's like, come out there, kick some, or pregame huddle, come out there, we're gonna kick ass, and it's, that's the running back. But it's also like at that point, like that's the clear best player on the team who's leading you. Like Justin, I think he can continue to ease into this, and they can be supported along the way. But ultimately, you want to get to the point where he is comfortable doing it.
Well, okay, so two examples. One, remember last year at Hard Knocks when the running back Williams was like crying. He was trying to inspire those guys so much. And it struck me just how passionate, because you felt it was real. There's no way anybody can't respond to something like that. Now, conversely, when you talk about the quiet guy leading it by example, look at the Cubs. Jason Hayward, quietest guy, never said a word. And then when money on the table time in Game 7, they have a rain delay, and he calls everybody into a locker room. And the players, to a man, said that meant a lot to them because he never said anything. And in that moment, he felt the need to say something. So if Justin's going to be the quiet guy, that means when he does speak up and he does get fired up, it's going to hold more weight than somebody that's always doing that.
That's a good point. I think for Justin, it's not only what happens in a huddle when the game's happening, but it's on the sidelines too. right? Where like maybe it's after a drive that doesn't actually work out. And, you usually see the quarterback kind of go down the line, starting with the offensive line. Like, let's go score on the next drive. Let's go do this. Like that, I think is just, what you naturally see from the quarterback position. And not to say that Justin isn't doing that right now, but like, those are some of the things that, he keeps adding that to every single game. Like you just feel a certain way. I would imagine you feel a certain way if you're a teammate, like, okay, he's saying, let's go score. I believe we can go score. Because he's the one leading, obviously the offense every single play. So it's interesting with Justin Fields. And I think someone put in here, lead by example. That's kind of the guy I've always struck Justin Fields at. Lead by your play, lead by example.
I like that comment by Keith Riggle. If we're going to combine sports here, D Rose is a good comp. The difference is, Derrick Rose is won the MVP at 22 years old, youngest MVP in the history of the NBA. So I do think there is a part of Fields' leadership where if he starts having some massive success at the start of the year, he will feel even more comfortable stepping into the role. The fact of the matter is when you play 25 games and you've won 5 of them, I'm not putting it on his shoulders. Let's not go crazy. But that's the reality. You're 5-20. You might be a little bit at least hesitant to completely step into like, I'm the man. I know exactly what I'm doing. Follow me. It's also his third year in the league.
To that point, Joseph Matuzak said D Rose had a certain huge man that was pretty damn loud in Joakim Noah. He wasn't playing around with you.
Right, and that's true. And I don't know, can Tevin Jenkins be that guy for him? Can DJ Moore be that guy for him? Can Chase Claypool be that guy?
Wasn't Tevin the guy that was the first to Justin Fields a couple of years ago? When he's constantly getting late hit, and Nagy's talking about guys not taking taking late penalties. They can't be doing that, and he yelled at Tevin Jenkins after the game. Right? He said something in the presser saying that because Tevin ran to Justin's defense and got a personal foul for defending Justin Fields, and every fan was like, hell yeah, Tevin, that's exactly what you do for your quarterback. And then Nagy, who always missed the boat, was like critical of Tevin Jenkins afterwards. No, you need a few guys like that are going to go to war for you.
Yeah, I remember that was the Sunday night game, I think, against the Minnesota Vikings. I asked Justin, do you like seeing that from Tevin Jenkins? He's like, yeah, I do. So the quarterback liked it. Tevin Jenkins reacted the right way. And, of course, the head coach.
Because remember in that same year in the preseason game, he got leveled in the preseason game against maybe the Bills. And nobody, because he was playing like third string at the time, nobody came to his defense. I was sitting in a bar a pool swimming bar in Vegas, and I was ready to jump through my TV and kill somebody when I saw that. And people on the sidelines, I don't care who it is, run out on the field. I don't care if you're not even a part of the next play, and rip somebody's helmet off. That's your quarterback. So there is a little bit of an in-between here. I don't mind how Justin carries himself, and he needs to stay true to himself, but there should be some guys that bring the energy.
Well, when Braggs was on that couch, I believe he was drinking a Goose Island beer. CHGO is supported by Goose Island Beer Company, as Braggs was about to run through a wall and jump through the TV. Love it. Chicago's beer since 1988. Of course, that's the year that MJ won MVP. There's a Jordan bit from today. Mercedes Lewis. We're going to have a conversation. But first, more on Goose Island. The Goose IPA was a 6-time medal winner at the Great American Beer Fest. We got the Tropical Beer Hug. That would be 9.9% alcohol if you want to accelerate your night, if you will. 312 Wheat Ale, the full pocket pills. Grab an ultra fresh brewery exclusive beers at Goose Island's original brew house on Clybourne Avenue in Lincoln Park, or from their tap room on Fulton Street in Westtown. Goose Island Beer Company, Chicago's beer.
Check out Goose Island, you guys, and you have to check out Hooters. Hooters is your spot to catch all the games this season. Step up to our plate for world-famous wings, delicious seafood, stacked sandwiches, salads, and more. Tons of great beer specials and $6 drinks all day, every day. I'm sure you can find Goose Island there as well. And check out their seafood specials, $19.83 for a pound of crab legs, and great prices on buffalo and steamed shrimp. Hooters is celebrating its 40 years in business all year long. In honor of the anniversary on the 4th of every month, Hooters will be hosting throwback events, bringing the 80s back with 83-cent wings and other great specials. Next one is on, we just missed it. It was August 4th, but that's all right. You can still catch them because they have them at every month here, but you got to check out Hooters. You got to have a good time when the games are on. We already had a preseason game on earlier this week. Hooters is going to be the place to be.
All right. A couple more things to touch on here before we get out of here. Again, appreciate everybody.
We also have a ton of super chats. I think like 13 to 15 of them to be exact. So let's keep that in mind.
Okay, we'll get to that in 1 second. Appreciate everybody jumping in there. But just a couple of housekeeping moments here from today. Number one, I saw somebody in the chat asking me how did Justin Fields play today. Nick, I'm going to defer to you on your thoughts on that, and then I'll give mine. What do you think of Fields' performance on this Saturday?
We're going to have differing opinions here, Mark.
We might. I don't know.
I think there were a couple of throws I think Justin would want to have back. He was almost intercepted by Eddie Jackson trying to hit Darnell Mooney. It was a throw that was underthrown, and Eddie Jackson had a near pick. And then he threw a weird ball down the left sideline off his back foot. You should never do that. But I think in terms of the 7-on-7 period, a lot of shorter passes. There were a couple of ones that went maybe 10 to 15 yards. He was he got the ball out quickly. And then in the team drill at the end, he did take the offense down the field to lead to a field goal. But it was there were just a couple of throws I think Justin wanted to have back, and it was due to one, holding the ball a little bit too long, and just off-platform throw off the back foot where you never really want to see that. Even though the ball sailed out of bounds, it still wasn't. He never gave his wide receiver a chance on that rep.
I thought nothing really stood out today, to be honest, for me with Fields. Like, sure. I thought he took some deep shots that didn't happen, but I like seeing him do it. I do agree with you that there was a bunch of just the short passing in that seemed like it was coming together. My biggest thing with Justin right now is I'll just kind of sum up his play of all of training camp from what I've seen. He still is very much waiting for a receiver to get open, tight end to get open, and then he delivers the football. And it has been pointed out by Luke Getsy that they want to get to a point where he's throwing the ball before, say, Chase Claypool makes his break or before DJ Moore. And so that's going to come with experience, timing, guys working together. They're not there yet. He's more, I think he knows what he's looking for. And when the dude's open, the ball's going there. But that real high level of boom, the ball's coming out, and right when the dude turns, it's on him, and the defender doesn't have time to wait. They are not there yet. So it's still a very much, I would call it a work in progress, and it does look better. Greg, I heard you chuckle. What are you chuckling at?
I don't want to go off topic. I'll tell you in a minute. It's just a funny dude in the chat making me laugh.
Okay.
I think, Mark, too, like that what you were just speaking of, that's the exact play to Darnell Mooney, who runs a corner route, is open on the play. But because it seemed like Justin Fields was waiting to see it open, the ball's coming out late, and that allows Eddie Jackson to undercut it on the underthrown ball. And had he just anticipated it, it would have been on the money. But like you said, like it's kind of shown up here.
Yeah, I think so far, and I saw your guys' reporting today. I also came across Adam Johns, who Nick, you just mentioned in 7-on-7 stood out, and he mentioned that Fields was 9 of 10 with one incompletion, tried to go downfield, I believe, to Darnell Mooney. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing that's encouraging me. And a lot of people are kind of rationalizing like, well, he's needed to work on the dink and dunks and the checkdowns and getting the ball out fast. And in 7-on-7s, I do feel like that's specifically what you're supposed to be doing. And he's doing that where he's, going to both sides of the field and finding different receivers almost every time, whether it be tight ends or fullbacks or wide receivers on the outside. But what you're not seeing in these 7-on-7s is the deep balls or anything. He's not finding that tight end up the seam or that wide receiver that, has inside leverage on the cornerback and he's taking the easy throw. And that's great. That's exactly what we want our quarterback to do, to move the chains. And then those things will open up over the top. But to this point, and we went back and forth on this yesterday about, who's better between Claypool and DJ Moore, whatever. It's a fun argument to have. But we're just either one of those guys. We're not seeing 50-yard bombs each day. And typically, because the Bears never have this kind of wide receiver talent, and when they do, normally we go to camp and it's bombs away. And I would not call this a bombs away training camp yet. So I'm not concerned because I know Fields is capable of it. And I do like that he's doing the dink and dunks, but at what point does the action reaction happen where they start to come down and sit on routes, and now we can take advantage of that with some double moves over the top?
And a lot of guys have been running double moves. Tyler Scott's been doing
Tyler Scott's the one guy that has been able to spring loose downfield because of a double move. Yes.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So here, let's get through some super chats. Then I want to wrap up with Mercedes Lewis real quick, and a slight issue I already have with this guy who I might instantly be my favorite guy in the locker room. He was so awesome to listen to. You guys are gonna love him.
Okay.
But
real quickly, you guys,
quickly
before we get the super chats, I just want to highlight the physicality we saw from the running backs in today's practice. Like Roschon Johnson laid down the boom on AJ Thomas, and a run up the middle, lowers a shoulder pad, and this is all happening post the Claypool and Eddie Jackson fight. So you saw a nice lower the shoulder from Roschon Johnson. And Khalil Herbert bounced off of Jalen Johnson on a simple short pass in the flat, lowered the shoulder on Johnson, spun off, and kept on running. So we're starting to see the running backs be a little bit more physical. So I just need to highlight that before we get to all these awesome super chats.
Good highlighting, and 100%. And the crowd absolutely loved Roschon Johnson's run today. He was barreling through there. So that was sweet to see.
And that's great because that might be the first time he's actually flashed at camp.
Yes.
And maybe because we've heard about his pass blocking prowess, maybe he's going to eventually take on a red zone goal line kind of duties for this team, because you can trust him in the backfield, be able to audible to different things, and know that he can either pass block or, make a catch. He did have a drop earlier this camp, but then when you get on the goal line, then you can, lay the hammer down. The thing I was laughing about, Mark, was Johnny Cakes getting real tricky with the super chats. He puts, he literally, it's not a super chat. He just put in his comments, $9.99 super chat when they start giving us updates on player injuries. And I just cracked up. I was like, that was pretty slick, Johnny. I'll have to give him credit.
Well, if you're asking us, on what's going on today, good job, Johnny Cakes. Very creative. Nate Davis was there, wasn't practicing. Jack Sanborn was there, wasn't practicing. Did you see Tremaine Edmonds, Nick? I didn't see him.
He did go out there later, but it definitely wasn't in the first, maybe 30 minutes of practice. He wasn't out there.
Okay. So Tremaine then eventually did show up. And again, we mentioned earlier that Tevin was back out there, so that was good to see. The Sand God was walking around. All right, let's get to the
real super chats.
The real supers.
An actual $9.99 super chat from Siddhartha Ariga. Haven't heard much about number 65. How's Cody looked back at center with pads? Any dead snapping? He may be the second most important Bear in 2023 as both the linchpin of a new O-line and buoying JF1's development.
We have seen some snaps that I think what you're calling is dead snaps that are rolling back to him. Those have happened. So it has not been perfect. Anything else on Cody from you, Nick?
One happened today where he rolled a snap, and that was actually a play to Khalil Herbert, so they still were able to execute it. And then I've seen Andrew Billings give him the work in one-on-ones, and Andrew Billings is a big dude, but I think if you take those things out of consideration, he's having an okay camp, but we have seen snaps and a little bit of the bullying from Andrew Billings.
Andrew Tractor Trailer Billings.
Some Bears personnel that I've talked about are optimistic on Doug Kramer. So just something to just at least put in the back of your mind as potential for the future. Okay, next.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you guys read some because I know Hogue was like, you don't have to read every one. So I'm going to leave this one to you because this is your boy, Con.
Just pop them in there, baby. Big Cram, $4.99. Nick, I'll buy you a Chicago hot dog and goose if you tell us what Bojack was saying. I think I saw Nick say back in the comments that he wishes you could, but you have no idea.
All right.
Nope, too far away.
All right, another one from Big Cram. Go ahead, Mark. Read it out.
What's more Gray Cram's background or his hair? Those are the ones that we don't have to read out loud. Big Cram, I will find you. Keep going along. I would say that the answer is my hair. At least that part of it.
The silver fox.
Hey, someone was complimenting us on our hair too, Mark. So earlier in the chat, they complimented both of us. So.
I'm in a growing out phase right now. I'm going into something.
My hair's still got to grow out from when I shaved it last month. So go ahead, Nick. This one's all yours.
Yeah, football, CF Candy. How did Fields play today, guys? John's report. I think you just alluded to that earlier, Greg. And I think we saw some good, we saw some bad at some throws that I think Fields wish he had back, but he looked quick with the 7-on-7 throws. And you don't take that for granted, because that's something they need to work on. And if he's getting the ball out and completing passes, moving down the field, that's exactly what you want to see.
I mean, it's a simplistic question that you would think any beat reporter is supposed to know, but for fans in the stands, we don't necessarily know. So maybe I'll encourage one of you guys to ask Luke Getsy the next time you have a chance to talk to him, what is your goal for Justin Fields in 7-on-7s? Because I think for some of us, you're watching the drills. We all understand what 1-on-1 is supposed to be about. We understand what 11-on-11 is supposed to be about, but what specifically is the goal for 7-on-7 without a pass rush?
Flus has talked about that. It's like the ball should never hit the ground on 7-on-7. That's what they're looking for. The ball should never hit the ground on 7-on-7. And in today's practice, they did a good job of not allowing that to happen. So if that's the goal that Flus is looking for, obviously coordinates with Luke Getsy. That's kind of what they're looking for in that period of practice.
I'm worried about the offense. I hope I'm wrong. That's where I'm at right now. I just think that by the end of the year, I'm optimistic that it's going to get there. At the start of the year, hitting the ground running, I'm not so sure we're going to be there. We'll see. I mean, preseason games are coming. Tennessee's going to be here a week from today. I don't know how much they're going to play, but they're going to play some. Eberflus has said that. Next up, Super Chats. What do we got, Bregsy?
Yes, sir. We'll roll through these here quickly. $5 Super Chat from Keys. Love this tenacity from Claypool. Goes to show he's aware of his situation. Just hope it doesn't escalate into a Martellus Bennett situation.
He ain't that dog. He ain't Martellus Bennett, dog. Martellus has got a trigger in there that a lot of that Claypool. I mean, Claypool might pout and scream and run around, but he ain't doing Martellus things. No way.
Not to mention the fact that Claypool's in a contract year, which is always the ultimate motivator for any player. Antonio Harris, $1.99 Super Chat. Antonio Havis. Recently found you guys. Keep up the great work. We appreciate you tuning in and finding us, and stick with us because this is going to be a really, really fun season of coverage. And we're looking forward to interacting with all you guys here in the chat as best we can. The Bears Matt 85 $20 Super Chat. I think Roschon Johnson wins starting job at running back. Your thoughts?
Bears Matt 85.
Yeah. Not the starter. He's starting to come to his own with today's practice with the big, truck stick. So we need to see a little bit more from Roschon Johnson.
And the Bears Matt 85, appreciate the chat again. We're saying that because Khalil Herbert looks great. Dante Foreman. It was all over the field today too. He's got some stiff competition in front of him. It's not like he's, it's not. It's going to take a big move for him to even get the football a bunch, let alone start.
But quickly, because to your point about being worried about the offense in the early going, I mean, I think, and I've talked about this a few times. Part of that is because you only get so much from the running game in preseason at training camp. You're not having Justin Fields running the ball like he would normally do in a real game. And same with the running game. And, Khalil Herbert might look great right now, but the bullets aren't actually flying. They're not hitting like you will in a regular season game. And because this is a running back by committee, when you get to week 1, if Roschon Johnson gets a couple opportunities and pops off back-to-back 18-yard runs, it won't take long. I can promise you that. And especially if he is a capable pass blocker too. Herbert obviously is going to get first crack, and Dante Foreman has proven himself in this league. But because it's a running back by committee, I think it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. And I think will see the hot hand more than not with these three guys. It's not going to be a guarantee for snaps week to week. And I think they're dangerous in a fantasy regard of who you want to draft. So there's a little fantasy advice for you guys to stay cautionary for Chicago Bears running backs to start. The Bears Matt 85, another $2 on top of his $20. He said it again. So we appreciate you adding $2 more to your super chat. We apologize. We definitely wanted to read that for you. Merritt Peterson, I apologize. I don't know exactly what chat. I've seen you a lot here in the live chat here today. He gave us a $4.99 super chat, but the comment was not attached to it. I encourage anyone that's putting in a super chat, make sure your comment is within it. Sometimes I can catch it when I see when that happens, and then other times, I'd have to scroll back to particularly find what your comment is. But we appreciate your support, Merritt. So If you put it in the chat, I'll try to get it up here today. If not, we'll get to it tomorrow. Rick Reuter, $5 super chat. Also understand that QBs don't get hit in camp, so it's harder for them to bring extra juice for the guys in the mix.
Yeah, I don't know how much the hitting matters, though, for that. I mean, he's going in the huddle. He's getting guys organized. He doesn't have to get smacked in the face for it. But,
True.
Justin stepping into it, I think he just, this week was about him taking it up, one further notch, and now Robert Tunyon's kind of pushing back on that. So it's been an interesting week around juice. What else, Braggs?
Yeah, we got just a couple more. Bear down, Omaha, $2
My guy.
super chat. CHGO going to KC this year, guys. Love to see you there. I don't think that's going to be in the cards. We're going to be doing our coverage from the studio. We're going to be rooting hard for the Chicago Bears to take down Patrick Mahomes and do the impossible. But you enjoy the barbecue, my friend, and bring some back if you want, or send some our way if you're living in Omaha, which I'm assuming you are.
Hey, bear down, McGonagall's. Nobody talks about it. McGonagall's. It's like a supermarket. They've got a lunch station there, and there's picnic tables outside. And you go in there. It's amazing. Okay, and hit me up on Twitter for more recommendations on KC. I love Kansas City. What else?
Two more. JV on the run, $4.99 super chat. What's the over/under on Justin Fields' touchdown receptions?
Receptions? Touchdowns he's going to catch?
I think
we'll do both. Over/under on touchdown passes.
We'll do passes.
What would you guys
25.
say?
25
over/under.
Yeah.
And now touchdown receptions. How many he's going to get?
0.5.
Because wasn't Roshan Johnson a quarterback coming out of high school?
He was.
All right,
he was
so there you go.
Yeah.
We got our new Walter Payton in the house. He's going to throw a couple touchdowns to Justin Fields. So, 0.5 for Justin Fields touchdown receptions?
Yes,
Under.
That's correct. Thank you, JV on the run. We appreciate you.
He's got another one, JV on the run, $4.99 super chat. Request you guys do a show from a New York City at a Bears bar. There are a few, and you can get an Italian beef.
JV, I will be at the U.S. Open in New York because that's where the U.S. Open is, August 29th to September 1st. So we can talk Bears at the tennis while we watch it. Let's go. Me and you, buddy.
Merritt Peterson, my guy Steven was able to find the comment. What does adding Yannick do for our linebacking core? The concern was that O-lines would take advantage and they wouldn't be able to make plays.
Yeah, for Yannick, I mean, he just adds pressure for obviously the opposing quarterbacks to internalize their clock. And those two are one of the best, coverage linebackers in Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards. So it makes their job a lot easier, and also for the secondary as a whole. So adding a true pass rush specialist is a move that helps all three levels of the defense, not just the linebackers.
After my little story about winning a fight, my guy Dre, a.k.a. Vision, had to remind me that Big Red said I lost. So, yes, I did get my ass whooped by Big Red in third grade. Thank you, Dre.
All right. Any more super chats before I wrap up with Mercedes Lewis here?
Yes, sir. Handle it. It's all done.
Okay,
Got through them all. We did it.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, appreciate everyone, and real fun show today. And I just want to say this. Mercedes Lewis got up there. He's in his 18th year. How have you done this long? Who have been your idols? The first guy he said was LeBron James, which is sweet. And LeBron's been doing it for a long time, 20-plus years. But I can't wait to get into an open locker room and talk some ball with Mercedes and just remind him that the greatest player to ever play anything, of course, is the guy whose shoes are over both the right and left shoulder of Nicholas Moreano. This is we should not be confused about anything about Michael Jordan in this town. And if you are going to reference LeBron like that, which is cool, the follow-up on that is, well, I think of LeBron, of course, Michael's better. That was what I was looking to hear, and he didn't say that. And so I kind of wanted to, just remind him of that. I didn't get a chance today, but I look forward to, making sure
between him and who was it?
Jalen Johnson is
Jalen Johnson. That's who it was. Jeez Louise. These young kids, Mark, we got to teach them.
Yep.
They're just in denial. It's all good. Well, that wraps things up here for today. I just want to remind everybody, please, if you can, become a diehard. This is a great time of year to become one. Adam Hogue's putting out a newsletter exclusively to diehards every single day. Go to allchgo.com and you can find all that information there. If you do become a diehard, you can get some of our awesome shirts, like this one here, the Bear Down shirt, available in our locker. You get one shirt for free by becoming a diehard. Going to have a lot of different tailgates here during the season coming up. You get discounts on those. And then, of course, our Cog Hill CHGO Kickoff Classic at Cog Hill, August 25th on a Friday morning. We're going to have a lot of fun there. Corey Wooten will be on hand golfing with us. Obviously, all of us here and Adam Hogue and the crew are going to be golfing too, along with the rest of the CHGO Bears team. So you can sign up for that with a discount as well. So a lot of great benefits to becoming a diehard. No better time than right now. So that, I think, wraps things up. As long as you guys are good to roll, we can enjoy the rest of our Saturday. Tomorrow, we are going to be right back at it. Looks like the rain's going to get out of the way in the early morning, and we should have a family fest at Soldier Field, another training camp practice, but this time on the lakefront where Mark Carman just loves to go. So we're going to have a lot of fun there.
Studio show tomorrow.
Yeah, studio show tomorrow as Mark's camera has frozen him in time with one of the funniest looks I've ever seen. So this is a great place to end it. Thank you for tuning in. Please hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe. Nick's taking a picture of this. Couldn't end it on a better note. There he is. Got it. There's our guy. Have a good Saturday afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And always bear down.